Yes! Wait, one more. F him up!
What's up, guys? Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Really appreciate you. Today, I do want to talk about Marathon. It's been a while since I made a video. In general, I've been doing a lot of live streaming on the channel, but I did want to take the time to talk about this game because, man, there is so much to unpack. And I'm very excited for the game. I'm very excited to play for the test week coming up. And I really just wanted to talk to you guys about an interview I came across after the China playtest that they had, I believe, last week, maybe a little bit longer. Joe Zigler actually did host an interview post-launch of the Chinese playtest and has some really interesting things to say. There's quite a few questions. I will link the original interview down below in the description, and then shout out to SEHPU, who was able to put up this video on YouTube, and it came across my algorithm. Shout out to you, sir. You guys go and definitely check out SEHPU's channel. Small creator just like myself, and so, you know, if we can build the community, all the better, right? Let's go ahead and just get into this interview real quick here.
Why did you decide to reboot the classic Marathon IP after so many years? Joe Zigler answers, the world of Marathon is tense and unpredictable, full of suspense and uncertainty, making it the perfect setting for us to create an ultimate survival experience for players. In this dangerous environment, information is power, but it's also difficult for players to determine which information is reliable. Julia Narden says, both Destiny and Marathon blend science fiction and fantasy elements. Destiny had more of a fantasy than science fiction, so in our next big title, we wanted to reverse that ratio. Marathon's universe leans more towards science fiction, and its fantasy elements are closer to cosmic horror than space opera. This characteristic fits perfectly with extraction shooters, since the key to these games is creating maximum tension.
I'm really happy that they're not trying to necessarily follow in the steps of Destiny when it comes to the aesthetic of the game. It definitely seems to be leaning more into a sort of cosmic horror, kind of like Alien, or, you know, something along that line, where, you know, you're out here in space away from Earth and you just have to survive, right? And at the end of the day, you're supposed to be coming up with, you know, different information and trying to figure out exactly what happened before you got here, but you have to survive. And I think that the music, the aesthetic of the characters, the lighting, the actual, you know, VFX, like all of those things compound into this kind of horror element in the extraction shooter, and I really enjoy that aesthetic, at least when I was playing the alpha.
The biggest challenge encountered during development. Are there any interesting behind-the-scenes stories worth sharing? The biggest challenge in developing Marathon was keeping our focus on the core creative direction at every stage of development. The creative potential of Marathon is limitless. Exploring all these ideas, bringing every concept to fruition could very well take 10 years or more. Therefore, we had to make choices about when to bring players on board and accompany us through the rest of the creative journey. This also meant leaving our own dreams, hopes, and aspirations, as well as the expectations of our test players for the future. The player feedback during the closed beta phase helped further clarify the core positioning of Marathon. We also used this feedback to invest more effort in refining a deeper game world based on player suggestions, creating a more immersive and ultimate survival experience. Closed beta testing is an indispensable and crucial part of the development process for Marathon. We also look forward to continuing this creative journey with the global player community within an open online ecosystem.
I bet the biggest challenge in Marathon was just trying to keep their main focus on the creative direction. You know, after playing Destiny for 10, 12 years, and, you know, I would imagine working on Destiny for probably 15 plus years, right, before it even came out, I would imagine that that's a very, very hard task, right? To kind of step away from a cash cow, a Picasso almost, if you would say, right? Destiny, for it to still be around as a looter shooter when majority of looter shooters have died is a feat in itself. And I don't think people give Destiny enough credit because based on market, right, we've had a ton of games in the past 5 to 10 years come out and not make it a year and be in that same vein of looter shooter, first person shooter, you know, all of that, MMO, RPG, and have all of those types of elements, but not be able to sustain themselves in this climate, right? And Destiny has been able to do that. No matter how bad you want to talk about Destiny right now, no matter what state it's in its current position, for the past 12 plus years, Destiny has remained majority at the forefront of the MMO RPG first person shooter type of game. And it's one of the only games that has the experience available to it that looter shooters crave, right? You can go seamlessly from PVE to PvP. And at one point they even had, you know, PVE PvP in the game in one activity called Gambit, right? So I really, really believe that for you to have to step away from something that has made you so significant and essentially giving you so much notoriety, whether that be good or bad, and then take something else and recreate it in an entirely new light, like that takes much focus, and kudos to the team, you know, for taking that direction, because I think personally that if they had have gone the route of Destiny 2, Marathon would just be another Destiny 2 and Bungie would probably fail. But because we've gone a separate route with Marathon, I absolutely believe that both Marathon and Destiny can exist in the same universe and be successful.
With extraction shooters becoming increasingly popular, how does the development team plan to make Marathon stand out from the competition? On the surface, the bizarre and magnificent world setting of Marathon is the core foundation for its unique identity. Most games in this genre start with the theme of survival, but what does it truly mean to survive outside our solar system? What tools do you need to carry to survive? What survival threats do you face on such an alien planet? Do the same physical laws apply here? I'm no longer a soldier trapped in a jungle or some ruined city, but a cyborg thrown into space to uncover the mysteries behind a lost colony.
Yeah.
In this world, my actions, playstyle, achievable goals, and the paths to those goals are all completely different.
No, he's absolutely right? All of the extraction shooters, which I kind of have played an extraction shooter. I played Division 2, which is a type of extraction shooter, but I haven't played any Arc Raiders. But from what I've noticed, majority of the extraction shooters, they do lean on that realism aesthetic, right? You're a human being, you're in some sort of dystopian Earth, right? And for whatever reason, you know, shit is messed up and you just have to survive. This is a little bit different. I mean, yes, we're still dystopian. Yes, this is still kind of a futuristic, or it is a futuristic type space, cosmic horror aesthetic, right? But at the same time, they are really, really leaning into the horror rather than leaning into the realism aesthetic. And I honestly love that. Bungie makes space games. That's it. That's the tweet. Bungie makes space games, and they make them very, very well, right? They make first-person shooter games extremely well. The guns feel amazing. So for them to go this route is not foreign. It's not, you know, a big hoopla. I think that the art direction threw people off, especially in the alpha, just because it looked a certain type of way, right? But it's very polished at this point from what I've seen most recently. It looks very great, right? I love the aesthetic that they have. I'm a cyberpunk type of person. I'm interested in space travel and the future, and you may not be, and that may not be the aesthetic for you. Arc Raiders might be more your jazz, or Division 2 might be more your jazz when it comes to realism and, having that immersive connection.
After multiple rounds of testing, how does the development team evaluate the current development progress and overall quality of Marathon? The development team is always the most demanding of themselves, so I wouldn't say we think it's perfect, but we've been incredibly excited and looking forward to the outstanding work we've done over the past few months and even years. From the complete overhaul of the core gameplay to the restructuring and optimization of the progression system and the introduction of various new features, each one has revitalized the game. This isn't just our team's feeling. With each monthly version iteration, we receive invaluable feedback from our growing community of collaborating players. This feedback helps us better understand how to improve the game's appeal and guides our continuous optimization efforts.
Yeah, man, in any developing stage, it's important to have as much feedback as you can receive, right, without it being overwhelming. And I think that the 2 playtests that we had in North America, I think that players provided tons and tons of feedback, whether that be, positive or negative, right? And then obviously in the most recent Chinese playtest, I'm sure they've given tons and tons of feedback as well. And honestly, from Alpha 1 to Alpha 2, from April to October last year, when we finally got Alpha 2, I saw improvements. I saw color changes, I saw texture changes, I saw UI changes, I saw improvements. I saw time to kill changes, I saw AI aggression changes. They are taking the feedback to heart and applying it, I think, in the best way possible.
How does the development team balance looting gameplay, PVE, and PvP content? Will players who dislike PvP and prefer a PvE experience be able to enjoy the game as well? We're definitely not making a game that's just about PvE. From a PvE perspective, we've certainly created many attractive elements such as challenging enemies and environmental threats, but the core of Marathon is creating tension and a storyline in an environment where resources and rewards are scarce, and players will fiercely compete for these resources and rewards. In other words, PvP is unavoidable in many situations. At the same time, we've also provided non-violent interaction tools for players who prefer peace. For example, a close-range voice chat function, and even the ability to hand items to downed enemies to revive them. These are all optional interaction methods. We look forward to seeing players develop their own stories in this environment without clear right or wrong, and the outcome of the game will depend entirely on the interactions and choices between players in the same match.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to not have interactions in this game with other players, I think you might have the wrong game. Let's just be for real. I think that if you're coming in here just looking to run around, grab loot, and not necessarily have to fight anybody, this is not going to be the game for you. You're going to have a fight every run. And it's not just going to be AI. You're going to fight AI, but you're also going to fight players at least once every run. And if you don't, you're very, very lucky. And you just were able to avoid literally everyone. But also, I think that it's cool that players are going to be able to work together, right, to complete certain objectives. The crypto archive seems really cool and super raid-like. They mentioned a bunch of raid mechanics and stuff like that. So I really think that if we are going to have to work together, it's going to be one of those things that's very tense. You're not going to know when the other team is or other person is going to turn on you. You're going to have to kind of watch your back and make sure that you keep yourself on your P's and Q's, because at the end of the day, you can't trust anybody unless they load in with you.
Marathon is a long-running online service game. What is the core direction of its season updates? How will the reset and inheritance mechanisms ensure fairness and playability in each season? Each season in Marathon will be a fresh start. We envision each season as a months-long roguelike adventure. Each season, players will start with limited resources and must gradually grow stronger through various means, forging their own unique path to growth. To implement this concept, each season will incorporate new content and systems, substantially reshaping the seasonal gameplay. That said, some content will be retained at the player account level. For example, cosmetic items acquired through unlocking or purchasing will continue to be retained across seasons.
Alright, so that makes sense. I mean, at least we retain our seasonal stuff as we do in Destiny. And from what I understand, there's no fear of missing out, right? So if you purchased a season and for whatever reason didn't finish it, you can come back to it at a later date, even beyond the season end date, right? So you can still get those cosmetics and still purchase those items. I'm very interested to see what he means by new content and systems, right? So new content to me means new runner, new weapons, new items and consumables, new armor cores, new maps, right? And every month, I don't think that we'll get a new map every month. I want to temper expectations, right? I think that we will get new weapons. I think that we will get new items, and we'll probably get a new runner every 3 months. And then maybe get a new map every 6 months is probably my ballpark, just to keep my expectations tempered. I don't think that we're going to get a release every month and there be a new map. I think that if that happens, then Sony is pulling resources from other studios that they've acquired to work with Bungie on this, right? That's the only way that I see that happening. The current team at Bungie, I don't think that they're putting out a new map every month or a new runner every month. That's not realistic.
In Destiny 2's PvP, there are instances where player guardians use abilities enhanced by exotic gear to wreak havoc. Will Marathon offer a similar experience? Will it incorporate gameplay elements such as class specialization, skill trees, or weapon systems? The key difference between Marathon and Destiny is that Destiny's gameplay revolves around players becoming the superheroes fighting against evil forces. In Marathon, we wanted players to experience the challenge of surviving in an extremely dangerous alien world where there's no clear-cut good or evil. Everything is watching your life, making you feel like both hunter and prey. Of course, as players gain experience, their abilities will improve, unlocking more powerful equipment and making each run more prepared. But the core principle is that no matter how strong a player is, they will face challenges. Survival will be the core experience in both PvP and PvE modes.
To me, that says you're not just going to be able to run in there and do whatever you want, however you want, no matter how many upgrades you have, no matter how many mods you have, no matter what cores or, what weapons you have. Like, you're not going to just mow down the entire lobby when you load in, right? And that's great. I love that. I love that they're saying that, because to me, that just means that everybody has a fighting chance. Like, regardless of skill level, regardless of, available loot and weapon perks and stuff like that you may have, you still have a huge chance to be taken out by AI and by other players. So you have to stay on your P's and Q's. You can't become lackadaisical in your gameplay. You have to make sure that you're, checking your sounds, checking your corners, right? Like checking the map if you have a teammate, or even if you have, or even if you don't have a teammate, make sure you're scanning areas and your team is communicating, right? That's why proximity chat is going to be such a huge thing. And if you turn it off, you're really not going to be able to know what's going on, right? You're going to be kind of lost in the sauce if you turn off prox chat. So that's very interesting. And then also, he says core experiences in both PvP and PvE modes. Is Marathon getting a PvE mode? that can't be a confirmation. Obviously, this is an extraction shooter, but is there going to be some sort of specific PVE that comes to Marathon? This is a question I have based off of the literal horse's mouth, Joe Zigler, saying exactly what he said.
How much do skills and equipment affect the overall combat experience? In Marathon, gear and skills are key to developing strategies and tactics to overcome survival challenges. While gunfights remain the core of the game and an important part of the gear and skill systems, healing, looting, movement, and environmental exploration are also core aspects of survival gameplay. Players' equipment choices, gear combinations, choice of the sprinter shell, and skill usage will greatly enhance these experiences.
So yeah, this just goes back to what I just said, right? Like, it doesn't matter how strong you are, but if you are strong, or if you do have good loot, and you do have good skills, and you have played first-person shooters before, you are going to have better experiences than a person who doesn't have good loot and maybe doesn't have, good first-person shooter skills, right? Maybe never played an extraction shooter before, and so, their first couple of runs, they don't really have anything that's worth anything, right? As we all want, but at the same time, they're not really savvy enough, to really have that elite runner experience in their first run, right? So it's kind of one of those situations. You're not going to be handicapped, right? It's just going to be a matter of your experience, based on what loot you have, what loot you find, and how skillful you are in putting all of these things together for your runner shell, right? So based on the runner shell that you pick, the loot that you have, the loot that you find, and all of the, different perks, guns, and materials available to you, your experience and your skill level will determine the outcome of the run that you have, right?
The player community is very concerned about anti-cheat mechanisms. What specific measures has Marathon taken to ensure fairness and integrity? We are committed to ensuring the security of Marathon and maintaining a highly trustworthy competitive environment. Games like this are extremely vulnerable to bugs and cheating, and as players ourselves, we've experienced the frustration of a game being ruined by malicious players. Therefore, we've implemented numerous preventative measures, but more importantly, we are prepared to deal with any cheating situation. As is well known, cheating in online games is a constantly evolving problem that requires continuous countermeasures.
Man, cheaters are running rampant right now, not just in first-person shooters. They're running rampant in Elden Ring. They're running rampant in Marvel Rivals. They're running rampant in 2K and Madden. Like, cheaters are just running rampant, bro. And I don't know, man. It's gotten to a point where companies are starting to sue the cheat companies that make these things, but it's not becoming enough, man. Like, there's not enough action happening. I really hope that BattleEye is able to prevent as many cheaters as possible, right? And so that at least we have good experiences as players and people who, really adore this artistry, because gaming is art, and people who cheat are defiling the art of the artiste, right? That's just my own philosophy. But yeah, I really hope that, they've taken as many measures as possible to combat these cheaters. I believe the I don't know. I don't remember the name of the cheat thing that they have, but yeah, I really hope that they're doing the best that they can to combat all of these cheaters for sure.
Compared to last year's test, the PvE challenge difficulty seems lower in this test. Was this a judgment based on previous player feedback? The difficulty level set by the UESC will undoubtedly change with each version iteration. I think in the alpha testing phase, the design idea was to make all AI more resilient, but also easier for players to bypass. Once alerted, a large number of AI would flood in and unprepared players would be quickly overwhelmed. However, as we continued to iterate and optimize based on player feedback and internal opinions, we designed these AI as individual units rather than groups. If players act recklessly, they will still alert all the AI in the area, but now each AI has increased damage and resilience, allowing the players to defeat them one by one without alerting the entire area of enemies at once. To some extent, this gives players more tactical options when attacking any area. And more importantly, the entire game is no longer a binary situation of either alerting all the AI in the areas or remaining completely undetected.
I like that. I like that the UESC is going to change their aggression and their response level, throughout these seasons. They're much more responsive on Dire Marsh and on what's the other one? Oh shoot, I can't remember the name of the other map that I played in the alpha right now. But yeah, they're much more responsive on those maps than they are on, say, Perimeter. Perimeter is more like the intro map, so you're not going to run into a lot of teams. You will run into a lot of AI, but again, they seem to be more passive than anything. In the first alpha, though, I do remember it being an all or nothing thing. Like, they either came at you full force or they completely ignored you, right? It was literally one or the other, right? And then if you did engage with them full force, then you're obviously alerting other player teams too. So I'm enjoying hearing that they are going to, temper or level the AI response, right? I think that's going to be really cool and really dynamic to the game.
Does the game include a safe container mechanism that allows players to retain certain items after death? At launch, we won't be introducing the safe container mechanic for Marathon. While this might be a bit difficult for players accustomed to other extraction shooters to adapt to, we've tried our best to design other ways to acquire resources and progress in the game, ensuring that players who want to continue even after dying can still derive a sense of accomplishment. Of course, we may add a similar safe container feature in the future. The key is that we will continue to monitor player behavior and feedback to understand how well players adapt to the gameplay of Marathon.
Honestly, I'm fine with them not having the safe container. I don't really. I think they have one in Division 2, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't played in like 5-6 years for real. But I'm fine with them not having a safe container. Obviously, like, it's an extraction shooter. It's supposed to be, all or nothing. You're supposed to, go in there and ensure that you leave with everything you came with. And if not, sucks to suck, bro. Like, sucks to suck. And I'm going to be saying that to myself thousands and thousands of times within the first week of launch. Just let that be known, right? I'm talking to myself first, always. But regardless, man, I think that we don't need a safe container. If they decide to add it, I hope that they make it like an optional thing that you turn on and off. Most people will probably turn it on. Only hardcore players will probably leave it off, right? But if you leave off the safe container, you still have that immersive feeling of losing everything on this run, right? This could be the run that you get everything you need and move on to the next part of the quest with whatever faction you are working with. Or this could be the run where you lose everything and you just have to go back in with what's left in your vault, right? So yeah, man, I enjoy it. I think it's going to be fine without a safe container. I can't be mad if they decide to add one, though, really, honestly.
Given that Marathon supports cooperative gameplay between different squads, will a matchmaking system be added to help players who prefer team play find groups more easily, similar to the mechanics in Arc Raiders? We won't create specific matchmaking rules to differentiate between non-combat players, but we will provide tools like close-range voice chat so that the players can meet and communicate within the game. In Marathon, the tension and suspicion of not being able to determine whether other players are hostile is the core of the survival experience. It is this sense of the unknown that drives the unpredictability at every race.
Right. So, yeah, as I said, it is a team game. However, you are going to have that solo experience available to you. Either you can queue up as a runner solo, or you can queue up as the Rook, which I guess is like the scavenger class solo, because you don't really load in with anything. And you don't really have too many abilities either, right? So you just kind of load in, get what you can get the hell out of there. and you load in the middle of a match. You don't load in at the beginning when you play as Rook. So I definitely think that Rook is going to be a cool class. I played it a couple times in my own alpha test that I was playing when they released it, and it was really cool. It was really nice to just run in there with literally, you know, no worries, right? You didn't have to worry about missing any loot or anything like that because you're a scavenger class. So yeah, I definitely think that they should have something like that, and I think it's going to work out perfectly.
A producer previously stated that the core concept behind this game's development was a team-based gameplay experience, but recently, a single-player mode called Rook was added. Is this mode merely a supplementary feature, or will the development team continue to optimize the single-player experience in future updates? When the game officially launches, we will offer both solo matchmaking and the Rook experience for single-player players. After receiving a lot of player feedback during the alpha test, we decided to add a solo matchmaking mode to satisfy players who crave a more intense experience and greater control over their gameplay. At its core, Marathon is survival. While we hope players can enjoy playing in teams, we also respect the preference of many players for the ultimate solo experience.
Yeah, I don't think that we need any sort of matchmaking lobby or anything like that either. It needs to remain full of anxiety, honestly. Like that's the best way that I can kind of describe it right now. Is like it needs to have that level of mystery. Like you don't know who you're playing with, and if you queue in solo, you don't know if that person is a friend or foe. You just don't, right? So it needs to have that and keep that to kind of set it apart, I think, from Arc Raiders. Because from what I understand, again, I have not played Arc Raiders myself, but from what I understand, like, it's a lot more PVE based than PvP. So I feel like, you know, PvP sweats from like Trials and Destiny and, you know, people that prestige 100 times in Call of Duty Warzone, like, they're going to have a lot of fun here when it comes to the PvP aspect. PvEers, you guys might want to find some PvP friends to run in here with. I don't think you want to queue up this solo.
Including teams that join midway through the match, what is the maximum number of teams that can participate in a single game? According to the design, how frequently do different teams encounter each other? The number of teams and players varies depending on the map. Large maps can have a maximum of 18 players per game, excluding new players, which is roughly 6 teams of 3 players each. Small maps support 12 players, 4 teams of 3 players each. When 2 teams suddenly encounter each other and start fighting, it's called an encounter battle. Overall, there's an average of 1 encounter per game, so some games you might encounter 2 teams, while others you might not encounter any. It depends on the number of players chasing, hiding, and cooperating within the game.
Okay, so we got an idea of how many players we're going to have, right? So either, 6 teams in a large lobby or a large map and 4 teams in a small map, right? And again, 1, maybe 2 encounters per run. I'm digging it. Man. I'm digging it. I want to fight. I am ready to fight.
The development team has promised to rework the AI skirmish gameplay, adding new loot types and more fun dynamic events. What is the current progress on these changes? Compared to the alpha version, how will the AI's lethality and tactical diversity be specifically reflected? There are too many details to list at this stage, but many aspects of the game have been adjusted compared to the first beta version. We focused on making survival challenges the core gameplay foundation. That is, we've designed the game environment to be more dangerous, increased the threat of the AI, and made resource planning a key consideration. In addition, we will introduce extremely difficult missions, forcing players to face life or death situations, and those who complete them will receive very generous rewards.
Alright, so everything we do should benefit and be worth the risk. That's what I'm hearing here, is everything we do should be worth the risk, right? And again, you're not gonna just be able to run in there and do everything you want to do and not suffer any sort of consequences. These are life or death situations that we're going to be put into, and we're not guardians. We're runners. This is life or death for real. You can gain everything or you can lose everything. Yes, give it to me now.
Regarding cross-platform player balance, how will the development team optimize the differences in controls between gamepads and keyboard and mouse? Will a cross-platform progress synchronization feature be introduced? We will be offering account linking options for cross-platform players, allowing a simple save file to be shared across all platforms. Whether you're playing on PlayStation 5 or PC, you can use the same account to continue your progress. We've made many optimizations for controller and keyboard and mouse players to ensure smooth gameplay for both, while also ensuring a fair and enjoyable experience for both sides. However, we will be offering matchmaking restrictions for console players, allowing them to choose not to be matched with PC players.
That's cool. I think that's fine, right? Like, console players are just different from PC players. It's just a different ball game. And of course, they're going to do everything that they can to finely tune and, make sure everyone is around the same level. But there are just some things that PC players just have over console players, and being able to, exclude yourself from the PC lobby and just play with other console people is, in my opinion, a plus. It's definitely a plus. So kudos.
During the demo, it became apparent that the game design seems to encourage cross-team cooperation. Was this the scenario the development team originally envisioned? I was quite surprised to hear that. According to our game's design framework, most players will instinctively see other runners as rivals. There certainly won't be enough high-quality resources on the map for all players, so naturally everyone will want to take resources from other runners or prevent them from getting them first. Nevertheless, we've designed mechanisms that allow players to reach informal truce agreements through close-range voice interaction, which we call tense alliances. Ultimately, we want players to make their own decisions, whether it's cooperation, confrontation, or backstabbing. In Marathon, all these choices are possible.
Now that's crazy. Whether it's cooperation, confrontation, or backstabbing. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, you queue up solo and you find a person, maybe two, bro, you gotta watch both of them. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta watch them. You gotta watch them. Because they will turn on you and you'll never see them again. You know what I'm saying? You can mess around and block them, but y'all still gonna end up in the same lobby if you queue up solo. So, bruh, you gotta protect your neck out here. It's crazy.
In the demo version, in-game resources are relatively scarce and randomly distributed, while the AI guarding these resources is extremely vigilant, making the game seem very challenging. Was this intentionally designed? Indeed, resource management is one of the core design elements of Marathon. We want players to carefully consider the resources they start with, and to feel challenged if they are unprepared when they are encountering opportunities or threats. The game also includes a corresponding supply mechanism to help players cope with these resource problems. Each map has its own supply points where players can find ammo boxes to obtain ammo and useful equipment to avoid running out of ammo. There are also medical stations where players can obtain various medical supplies, and in most cases, these supply points are located in somewhat remote areas, meaning players will have to spend extra time exploring and taking detours to obtain these resources.
There's so much that goes into a run, right? You can't just willy-nilly pick your items and pick your cores and pick your guns and say, all right, this is what I'm going to do. There's thought that has to go into every run that you go into, based on, your teammates, based on what your objectives are, based on the map that you're going on. Like, all of these things you have to kind of take into account. And it's really cool that they have a bunch of supply drops. Those are really dope. I really enjoy using those.
Bungie has a huge fan base in China. Is there anything you'd like to say to the Chinese players? I personally am very much looking forward to seeing the reaction of Chinese players to Marathon. China has one of the most passionate and talented player communities in the world, and I believe they will provide positive feedback, explore more ways to play, and give us a new understanding of this game. Thank you all for joining us on the expedition to Tau Ceti. that's going to be it for the Q&A.
Overall, I think this was a great interview, man. I'm really glad that they did this, and I just really want to appreciate, SEHPU and Joe and Julia for their time, and the Chinese teams there for actually doing the interview, and for the playtests. Thank you guys so much. Send me a free copy of Marathon, man. I would love to work with you guys and promote you guys with your creators team and everything like that. But otherwise, everyone here, thank you so much for kicking it with your boy. I really appreciate you guys for stopping by and just viewing this video. Even if you click through it and kind of watch some of the things here and there, I really appreciate that regardless. Catch y'all in the next stream, and hopefully see y'all on Tower City on the 26th. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes!
Let's go.
Yes!
Let's go.
Yes, boys! Let's go!
Rook squad.
Rook squad.